Hey there, tennis fans. I'm Grace Carter, and this is Tennis Now, presented by Tennis Express. Tennis Express, order today, and it ships today. Nick Kyrgios' Cincinnati meltdown isn't going to cost him an immediate suspension. The ATP did hit Nick with a 16-week suspended ban and a fine of $25,000 for his wild implosion in Cincinnati back in August. That means if Nick commits another rule violation during a 6-month probationary period, both the 16-week ban and the $25,000 fine will be imposed. If Kyrgios complies with the ATP rules and stays on the straight and narrow for the next 6 months, then there will be no suspension or fine. Also, the Washington, D.C. champion must continue to get help from a mental coach while he's competing on the ATP Tour, and he's got to get help during the off-season from a professional specializing in behavioral management. Nick says he will not appeal the sentence. That means his probationary period began on Monday, September 30th, according to the Sydney Morning Herald reports. Kyrgios announced that he's going to miss the rest of the Asian swing because of a collarbone injury. Now, if Nick shuts it down for the rest of the 2019 season, that means he'd have completed about half of his probationary period and could fully finish probation in the spring of 2020. Of course, it's possible that Kyrgios could play for Australia in the Davis Cup final coming up in November. The Davis Cup is an ITF event, not an ATP event, so if Nick does play and had any kind of incident or issue, it will not likely impact his ATP suspended ban. Nick responded to his detention with this Instagram post, writing, "Guess I'm on my best behavior for 6 months," adding the hashtag detention. The ATP action stems from Kyrgios' crazy meltdown in Cincinnati during his second-round loss to Karen Khachanov. Nick verbally abused chair umpire Fergus Murphy, spit toward an official, and left the court briefly to smash up some rackets. It all added up to a record $113,000 fine for the Queen City Mayhem. When asked about the fine during his U.S. Open presser, Nick slammed the ATP as being pretty corrupt. The next day, Nick took to Twitter to clarify his comments, saying he was trying to point out a double standard rather than corruption on the ATP Tour. It was not the correct word choice, says Nick. Now, the ATP said following Nick's clarification that, quote, "it was determined that the incident did not constitute a player major offense and no additional penalties were applied." For Nick, he has vowed to be on good behavior, but the question is, can he keep that promise? Here's the question for you. Do you think the ATP's punishment is fair? That's a wrap for this time, everybody. We'll see you next time.